So got the rear axle lined up, pulled in, changed back onto the gearbox. We got a new rope, pull rope, because that other one was just plain goofy. This thing has a limited slip differential in it. That's pretty sick. I mean, it makes sense why I wouldn't have a straight axle, but it's got some things in here. So we're gonna fire it up. I want to see the 2-speed gearbox. Okay, go. Do. Forward and reverse. Some of the things we've done, I'm going to stitch some loops in the back side of this seam so we can slide it over this piece of conduit, and then that way we can pull the conduit easily. It lifts right off these bolts, which we put in there, Skippy put in there, and then you can take this whole thing off if you want. We put a string in here to make it a drawstring. I went on the lathe real quick, grabbed a chunk of aluminum, and I made this nice little handle, because the other one was made out of a shovel handle and a dumb piece of rope. So I turned this real quick out of aluminum, knurled it, used a piece of string. We got that going. You see the transmission is going. I got the rear axle put together. You saw it's actually a limited slip Positrack type differential. It's pretty sweet. Tomorrow I'm going to mess around with some of this linkage. Is super sloppy. I'm going to see if I can clean any of that up. The tensioner for the drive pulley is stuck. It's been bypassed, right? There's a piece of linkage missing. This thing goes in and out to pull up this tension wheel, but they've tightened this down to the point where it's always tensioned. Not sure if I like that yet, because it can. I think we're going to redo it, because this thing can get away from you pretty quickly, and it's got a ton of torque. Skippy almost ran into the house when he first did it. You know, and then hastily you slam it into reverse, and then the thing will run you over, and there's no safeties on this, so it will run. It'll run you over. So another project will be to fix this. I do need to change the oil in it, which is why we're not going to run it too much longer. And that's it. No more raking or backpack blowers or sweeping. We'll just run this thing up and down the driveway a couple times. Oh yeah. All right, now I'm going to leave for real. Appreciate you guys watching. Gotta go, gotta run. See you. Gotta wrap on blocks. Alright, dump the oil. It's dark, but it's probably old and dirty, but it's not too bad. Don't see any silver in there. I see your typical funk. So we're gonna let that drain. I pulled the front wheels casters off because these threads are really hard to turn, and I don't really want that. So I'm gonna run a wire wheel on these guys, clean up the threads, lube them, grease these casters or oil them, and we'll keep on moving. Got these guys cleaned up, oiled up. Look, the wheels spin. This outer wheel here, which has some interesting wear on it, was actually frozen, just frozen solid. Took a bunch of rust out of these wheel hubs. I didn't notice that yesterday, but I was kind of just excited to get it running. I'm gonna have to check the video and see. This screw jack here was also very frozen. You see where I had to put a wrench on it, but I'm not worried about those threads because that puts it right into the ground, and that it's never going to be that low. But I do have it moving again. This one was stuck solid, like solid. I needed heat and penetrating oil, and now everything's oiled up nice. This one rolls nicely. Here's the lock. Now I'm dirty. I was wearing gloves. Yeah. Okay, let's get on with the front flapper. I'm gonna heat these guys up and straighten them, these little bent tabs, and see if I can get this flapper done. Implement, you say? It's just going to be used on the ranch, you say? I used originally the Dremel so I could limit the amount of paint I was cleaning out of here, be very exact, and then I welded it, and then I came and I smoothed everything out. I'm going to let that rust up like the rest of it. I'm not going to put anything on it. I'm going to leave it be. This is a little funky here. I think I need to spend a little more time with the grinder there. Idiot. Yep, that's going to have to do. So I got to do a little bit of fabricating, and I didn't get to be picking up the camera. This is all done. We're going to let that patina just like the other side. Decent amount of weld on there. This side's all welded up, ready to go. That one's good. This flapper goes freely. I got the little berm cutters, I'm guessing, straight enough to where they're going to be straight. Oh yeah, shift linkage. So this one does the belt tension. This one does forward and reverse and neutral. Looking up some stuff online, the way they've got this set up is this is actually set up on the outside here, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I flipped this. I kept it flipped, I should say. And I don't think it's, no, it shouldn't be in the way of anything. Anyway, made up some shift linkage for here because that linkage was missing. Used some stainless steel hardware that I have laying around. These are aviation nuts. You see that little diamond stamped in there? That gives you the locking ability. Use that, and that. That's on a bunch of hardware that I inherited from a friend that passed. But, okay, so I did that. So that allows you to add tension. I ran two. This was what was there before. I don't believe that makes no sense on any of the geometry of the shifting. So I just made my own, and if one is good, two is better, because this is going to be a lot of downward force. This pushes down this way, which puts that lever up to push in the inside of the belt to create tension, which creates drive. The way this thing rotates this way, so the belt is being pulled on the bottom, because I thought, wow, maybe that's supposed to go on the top of the belt to add more belt contact to the pulleys. But two things. First of all, it pulls from the bottom, not from the top, and there's simply no room for that pulley and the hardware and everything to fit in between here. So that must be where it is. I haven't been able to find anything on the interweb as to how this whole setup is, other than there's a video of this, one of these old guys on YouTube, and the guy's got this on the outside of the handle. But right now, that is what it is. I improved the shifting by going on the lathe and turning a bushing for this little shift pin right here, which tightens it up for forward and reverse, so there's no play in here, so it'll make it just easier. I forget which is forward, which is reverse. I don't know, it doesn't matter. All I know is the middle is neutral. That's A direction, neutral, A direction. The detents in the Trans-Michigan are pretty decent. It's this this bushing here was pretty worn out. So it's this here. And then the thinking on this, so that works. So the thinking on this is you push it down, and I could be wrong, I could be stupid. When you push this down, oh, that's the other thing too, is this is the wrong belt. This belt's too small, because when this is pushed all the way down, right, it hits the transmission case, or the gearbox. We'll just call it a gearbox. So this tension or pulley can't go down any farther. I believe it's still going to spin the gearbox, I believe, and not actually allow it to slip. So eventually I'm going to replace this belt. You got to pull the engine, you got to pull the front of this housing off to slip this over, unless I get a build-a-belt. My brother keeps saying, get a build-a-belt, get a build-a-belt, and that may be the way I go. But ultimately this belt's got to be longer to allow this gearbox not to have friction. But the thinking is down is no friction, and then when you want to drive it, you grab it with your hands and you pull up like this, and you can hold it like that while you're vacuuming the driveway. I turned this, went on the lathe, got a chunk of aluminum, I turned this, I knurled it, drilled, tapped, and it matches the one I did yesterday of the pull rope. I don't know, why not? You got the lathe, you might as well use it. So the pull rope, they match. Same. So here's what we ended up with. This thing's ready to go to El Rancho. Let me take my earplugs out. Just took a soldering iron and I burned through this nylon webbing and through there, nut and bolt with washers. This way you can just lift it right off to dump the bag if you need to dump it away from the machine. Just a piece of 1/2-inch EMT conduit. I put in the hydraulic press, squidged the ends, drilled a hole, good enough. Yeah, let's fire it up. Do one more fire up, and then the next time you see this, it'll be in the back of the Dodge on the way to the ranch. Let me see.